Welcome to the Perfect Pairing Podcast. The cigar of the week this week is from my father, and it is the My Father Fonseca Cedros.
But before we get to that, in case you guys don't know us yet, my name is Chris, and I am the whiskey expert and the cigar noob.
And I'm Adam, and I'm the cigar expert with the whiskey noob. That was too, yeah, that was just stupid.
I liked it. I like the unsheathing of the cigar.
Yeah,
And today, let me unsheath here.
yeah,
We
yeah.
are finding the perfect pairing for this My Father Fonseca Cedros cigar.
Yep.
That was a good audio there.
That's good. I'm glad it was good on your end. It felt stupid on my end. But I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. I'm gonna do a V cut on this. The Cedros is a Toro, by the way. In case anybody
Oh,
out there
okay.
is curious, what size cigar we're smoking today.
I actually did not know
But
that. Is that just a different language, or what's the deal there?
yeah, I think it's Spanish. It might be Spanish for Toro. I think it's Spanish for some sort of sizing. It's one of those situations where they're like,
Mm.
"Yeah, we're gonna make up a new name." I'm like,
Oh, okay.
"Great." Now everybody's confused. They're like, "The Cedros, oh awesome! I've had the Cedros before," and then like, it's like, no, 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 it's the Fonseca that is like the whole point.
Right, right.
Like this Cedros is pretty good. Like, and then like people that are like Spanish speaking, they're like, "Why does he keep mentioning the cigar as just the size?" Like,
Yeah. Well, I for sure thought that. I thought that it was part of the name. So I'm glad you told me that.
I'm fairly positive that it's not, but it could
Okay.
be wrong. But I'm pretty sure it's the size. Um, at least that's the way I rated it. But fun fact, before we get into our trivia this week, when you have a little cedar wrap on your cigar, you can light your cigar with it.
I was actually going to ask you about that. So for those watching the video version, you can see Adam do that right now. I was going to ask if that was a legit thing or not because I've heard that and I've never done it before. People say, this is just what I've heard as a noob, that lighting with cedar gives you a more pure kind of a flavor. And I don't know if that's true or not. I think that's kind of like if you put your whiskey on ice, you're not getting the pure whiskey type of a conversation. But I was wondering if it was real or not. Do you toast first? Because I'm about to do the same thing. Or do you just straight up light it with the wood?
You typically just light it up.
Okay.
It doesn't work very well. I just touched it up with my torch. Like you're not gonna get a perfectly like it's. Well, I got a fan kind of little going in here too, so it makes it difficult a little bit as well. But I mean, you can like rotate the cigar if you can, if you do have your other hand free. So like you can get it. Here's the thing, and I almost wish you. I mean, like it's good that you did, like, because it's fun and it's a little like I wouldn't say it's a gimmick, but it's a fun thing. Like some gimmicks
Mm-hmm.
are just gimmicks, and some gimmicks are fun. And this is
Right.
what like. I envision a fun thing. Do I ever do that when I have this cigar? No. I just did
Okay.
it here on
Yeah.
the podcast. I never really do that. Now, getting into the whole is matches the proper way to light. Um, like a lot of people do say that are old school. Sure. Here is my rule of thumb. Um, the whole point of lighting a cigar is to try and light the cigar to have it the way the master blender intended it to taste, correct? That's why
Right.
you don't want to use like lighter fluid lighters, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
why you don't want to use an old Zippo and all that sort of stuff because it's going to change the flavor. Now, a wood note on a cigar changes the flavor. So if you light a cigar with wood, which has a scent, it's going to change the flavor. So it's going to enhance the wood notes out of the cigar, sure. But if that wasn't intended in the cigar, all of a sudden you're manipulating the flavor just a little bit to be a little woody. So that's my opinion. That's why butane is kind of like widely considered to be kind of standard because butane is scentless and odorless. So I
Mm-hmm.
know it's the same thing, but so there's no flavor to it. So it adds zero flavor. So you're smoking what the master blender intended.
Okay. So yeah, you are unless they were like we're putting the cedar on the cigar because we want it lit with that, then you're if they don't think that, then you are adding something to it basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like I don't know. I mean that's the super nerdy technical answer. The truth is light it with what you. If you like lighting with a match because it looks cool, or a cedar spill, or I mean, honestly, if you want to light it with a Zippo, it's your hard-earned money, man. Go ahead and do what you want. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to sit here and judge anybody. Um, but with that, I'm going to ask you a very high-level question that you're probably not going to know, and you're going to feel really stupid because you are stupid. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, make me
Um,
feel stupid. Let's do this thing.
As I try and be very approachable, let me make you feel like an idiot.
Yeah,
Um,
humble me.
no, the trivia question of the week this week is, what does puro mean in the cigar world? When a cigar is called a puro, what does that mean? This cigar, by the way, is a Nicaraguan puro.
Okay. So I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to Google something else so I don't accidentally say something incorrect here.
Well, don't Google like what is a puro.
No. I'm not Googling that. I'm not Googling
Everybody
that.
knows now, Chris. You're cheating right now in front of
I
everybody.
I'm not. This is something. This is something that one of my friends told me, and I want to know if it's true or not. So
You
I've
don't want to look
heard.
stupid. Just go ahead. You're the noob.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong about this, or maybe it's a slang in Mexico specifically. I'm pretty sure my buddy from Mexico told me that they'll say pura just for cigar. Like, this is a pura. Like, that's how. But
Yeah.
then if you Google translate it, it's cigarro. But I don't think they say cigarro. I think they say pura, if I'm not mistaken.
It's
So,
yeah. It's I think it's one of those things that's different Spanish dialects.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've heard that. I've heard cigarro. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a lot of them now just say cigar.
Yeah.
Like
There's a
we've kind
lot
of
of
like
words like that.
brought it over, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's not that. It's not a cigar. This is a Nicaraguan cigar. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. What does puro mean? It means cigar. This is a
Yeah.
puro cigar. It's a cigar.
Again, that's one of those things where if I want to toss a trick question like Chris does, no, I'm just kidding.
I love the trick
But
questions.
what is cool about this cigar? Before you get into your noob review here,
Mm-hmm.
um, actually, we didn't even introduce ourselves. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
we did. I
Yep.
did my
Yep.
introduction. Sorry, I was so distracted and focused
The
on my
unsheathing.
unsheathing. Yeah,
I got you.
it really did. But this cigar is really cool because Fonseca, if it sounds familiar to some of you, maybe older cigar smokers, you'll notice that the Fonseca is a Cuban cigar brand that was turned Dominican, that was now purchased. The rights were purchased by my father to have that name. So my father now owns the name Fonseca. That is an old Cuban brand, like Antigüedad and some other ones that they have in the My Father line. So that's some cool history around it. And the other piece is what I think Chris is noticing because I'm seeing his face here. The very unique flavor of the Corojo 99 shade grown wrapper. Wow.
Yeah.
Like beautiful flavor. It is the star of the show in this cigar, and they intended it to be 100%.
I mean, seriously, wow. That was the immediate thing I was going to say was this tastes so different from most of the cigars that I've had. So, I'm a newbie. I'm going to throw out something wild this time. I'm going for it. I'm throwing out a wild note. This My Father Fonseca has a note. It's got a little bit of a leather, which I really enjoy. And then it reminded me so strongly on the first puff of cinnamon toast. Like, so strongly. I don't know. I've never gotten that from a cigar, but I love it. I mean, it was, you probably noticed I was puffing it like crazy because I was like, what am I tasting?
That,
Yeah, that was cool. Wow.
Okay, I can give you a little cinnamon. Here's what I'm gonna pull a little Cincinnati card out of here. There's a little Skyline hint in there, and that's where I'm getting some Skyline cinnamon, a little bit more than I am like pure cinnamon.
Okay, hold on a minute. What is Skyline cinnamon? I really hope you don't mean Skyline chili because that's my only reference for this.
No. Yeah, Skyline chili is made with cinnamon.
Wait a minute.
I just blew your mind, didn't I?
Wait a minute. Yeah, you really did. Is that
Skyline
why it's
chili
so
has cinnamon in
iconic?
it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So that I'm actually speechless. I need to get it together here. So Skyline, but it doesn't remind you of chili, right? It just reminds you of the cinnamon of the chili, or what?
Correct. The cinnamon flavor of the Skyline chili.
Okay, okay. Okay, there's a lot happening in my brain right now. Let me
Is it?
explain to everybody listening who's not
Yeah,
from
go
this
ahead.
area.
I'll get a
So
picture in my head.
Skyline Chili, very renowned from the Cincinnati area. They do have them elsewhere, but I had it and I was like, okay, this is good. It's kind of sweet for me. I like my chili with a kick to it. And I never knew that that was why it was sweet to me until right now, which is why my mind is so blown.
Wait a
I didn't know
second.
that.
Did you just say you don't like Skyline though?
Eh, it's okay. I'm sorry. Dude, just covering something with shredded cheese doesn't make it good, you know?
Oh my God.
I'm so sorry.
For
I'm
all of
so
you that
sorry.
don't know, I'm from Cincinnati and now I live in Atlanta, so I don't get to have Skyline. And if you don't know what Skyline is, just Google it, or you probably heard crazy Cincinnati people talk about this Greek chili that's put on noodles. And that's what most
Mhm.
people say, not covered in shredded cheese. Most people are like, it's not chili, it has noodles in it. That's what most people say. But you're
Okay,
the
but it
guy like,
is covered in shredded cheese.
it is. I get it with light cheese. So,
Oh, okay. Maybe I need to do that. Maybe I need to do that.
I
Too
mean,
much
like,
cheese on my belly. I'm like, oh my gosh.
no, see, I feel that. Anyways, this is not about Skyline. I
You
thought
blew
you were
my
just gonna be
mind.
like, bingo, and you were like, I hate Skyline, and then, yeah.
I don't
Anyways,
hate it. I don't hate it. I just like, well, you don't like spicy food. I like chili with a kick. Like I like a little
it's
bit of
not
pop.
chili. That's why I don't even call it like I don't even think of Skyline as chili. I think of it,
Right.
I think of it closer to spaghetti and meatballs than I do chili.
Okay. Okay. Another mistake then. I got the coney. I did not get it with the noodles. So maybe I need to try the
What?
whole, you know?
Oh, you're way off now. Yeah, I mean the cheese conies are good, but like, nah, the noodles is where it's okay. Anyways,
All right.
back to the
I'll try it.
cigar. It is oddly like very. I'm trying to get that flavor. Maybe it's that sweetness you were talking about. Like
Mm-hmm.
that Corojo 99, man, is like it's like I wish that I could smoke this as a fuma or a purito. That's like that one single strand. I've
Mm-hmm.
never had Criollo 98, 99 in a single strand. Or sorry, Corojo 99. I've had Criollo 99. That's
Mm-hmm.
Aganorsa's signature tobacco. But um, the Corojo 99, I'm like, I just it's throwing me off in that the cigar is medium bodied
Mm-hmm.
and the sweetness brings it down to like not a Connecticut, but being like a lighter cigar. So
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be these pairings are gonna be very interesting today specifically. Um, the 4-in-1. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Last thing I'll say as my noob review here is I get what you're saying because it's like it's got full spice, but it's got full sweet. So it like evens it out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think what it reminded me of a little bit on the one puff was kind of like an Oreo, like a little bit of not dark chocolate, but like the cookie flavor, you know?
No, I'm not getting Oreo.
Okay, all right. I'll
You
put
lost me
myself
on that
out
one.
there, you know?
You do, you do, you do. I'll give you credit for it, but I'm not gonna bite on all of them.
Hey, that's fair. If you did, then people would be like, yeah, these guys are just
My Father
messing with us.
Fonseca, sponsored by Oreo.
Yeah, right.
Chris
What I
just got
will
paid to
say,
say that.
super tasty cigar. I mean, complex, very tasty. Really enjoying it so
I
far.
think it's any type of cigar smoker you are, you're gonna enjoy this cigar. If you're light, heavy, medium bodied, doesn't matter, you're gonna enjoy this cigar. My
That's a
opinion.
good way to put it. Yeah, because it really hits a lot of different parts of the flavor wheel for
Hmm.
sure. So, pairing number one that we're going to have with it, can't wait to see what happens, is Suntory Whiskey Toki. And we've never had this on the show. This is the first Japanese whiskey that we've had on the show. I don't believe this is a single malt. I believe this is blended. It does not say on the bottle, but if I'm not mistaken, this is a blended Japanese whiskey. And I know this flavor profile inside out and backwards because I've had it on the podcast a couple times to talk about Japanese whiskeys. So I'm not really worried about not knowing whether or not it's changing.
Your
I'll
personal
probably go with that.
podcast. Yeah.
Oh, great point. Yeah, I should
Yeah.
probably throw that
The
out there.
Whiskey Noobs podcast.
The Whiskey Noobs podcast, correct. So this is the type of glass that I have sat with for 30 minutes straight and just figured out what was going on. Not that it's that insanely complex, but I just had an episode dedicated to it, and so that's why I did that.
First sip, it really fills your palate.
Mm-hmm.
Like you feel it on all like roof of your mouth. A lot of salivation on the sides of the tongue. I mean, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Little tingle on the middle of your tongue. Sweetness on the tip. Like it's that it like full like the cigar was gone right away.
Yeah. And that's because similarly, this hits a lot of different parts of the flavor wheel. It's all definitely on the lighter side, so it doesn't hit those dark chocolate type notes, but you get some of the sweetness with the honey. You get some of the grain with kind of the malty flavor. And you even get a note that I don't get often, which is what I like about this whiskey. This is also super budget, by the way. This is like $34, which for an
Oh, wow.
import from Japan is pretty good. Um, you get a little bit of a ginger, which is a little different. Not like ginger with baking, but like ginger ale, like that type of a ginger.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. So I haven't puffed the cigar yet. I'm going to do it right now. I can't wait to see how these two that hit weird spots on the flavor wheel, how they contend with each other.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this one. I almost feel like that ginger profile that you were talking about. I get the maltiness out of the Japanese whiskey here, um, but the maltiness that you're talking about. Um, all right, pause. My iPhone storage is full, but I can
Oh
go delete.
no. That happened to me last week.
Pause, John. Pause. I
Faux
gotta
show.
remember to delete all of my.
Hey, this is like my best dream. I get the time to actually think about it without having to talk.
Very true. As I delete 4 1-hour videos. I hope. No, see, like. Oh, yeah, I have to go delete it from my.
Mm-hmm.
Deleted, too. I was like. Because, sometimes it's like, takes a second.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back. What was I saying?
Great question. The maltiness. You were talking about the whiskey.
Yeah. So I'll just start there. John, clap. Oh, do we have to reset? No, because we're still here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Audio's still synced up.
This is going to mess him up, though. John, I'm
Oh,
really sorry.
you can clap on the side camera. You should clap for that, probably. And then just leave it edited out of the podcast.
Give you two claps there, John. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. All right. Hopefully
there
that
you
helps.
go.
Sorry, John. All right. On the whiskey, on this Japanese whiskey, I'm getting the maltiness, definitely. But when you talk about the ginger side, I think that's where this pairing is kind of taking a twist that I'm not happy about. I think it's overwhelming the cigar a little too much. That flavor, that diverse flavor, I think it's really honed into a peppery spice in the cigar. And then going back to the whiskey, I mean, this is antagonistic in my opinion through and through. I don't think I'm getting much on the whiskey. Would you agree with that?
I'm 100% with you there, dude. The whiskey has not changed very much. The cigar, I called it cinnamon toast. Now I'm going to call it burnt cinnamon toast. I mean, that's what I'm getting. Weirdly enough, I like that, actually. It's tasty. But I see what you mean where it, especially if you want it to be approachable, it kind of got cranked up to 11 with the spice. That ginger came through from the whiskey and said, this is now spicy.
Yeah, and this is coming from a guy who doesn't like ginger beer or ginger ale. So like like this is one of those situations where the palate is really going to come into play where do you like ginger is kind of really diversifying, I don't know, flavor that a lot of people, some people love it, some people hate it, some people are okay on, whatever. I'm not a super fan of ginger on like almost anything, but I will say it's not like taking that side away and just objectively trying to look at the pairing. No, I mean I could see where like if you really like a little tingle on your palate, this is probably the pairing for you. So like I can see what you're saying there.
Dude, that is a great point for us to stop on for a moment because that shows so clearly how subjective this can be sometimes. Because the My Father undoubtedly is getting that ginger spice to it. And I love ginger ale. I love cocktails that have ginger beer in them. I drink ginger ale instead of whiskey if I'm doing like a dry week or something. And I love that flavor is getting translated from the Suntory to the My Father, and you don't like it. So that's a great point because we agree a lot. So it's really good for the listeners to recognize this is to some extent subjective.
Yeah, nope, 100%. I mean, and that was true through and through. I am getting a little distracted because I've got nearly, oh sorry, I'm nearly a razor burn line or razor line of an ash here. I mean, holy crap, that construction could potentially not be any more perfect. And we took a very small little gap because my side went out just for everybody that noticed a little bit of a skip there. But um, yeah, it's still holding really, really strong, which if you're not smoking consistently is nearly impossible. So I mean, wow. My Father, obviously, they're one of the, classic cigar companies. Their bands, the band designs are always like so extravagant. Like,
Yes.
what attention to detail. Like, you've got people in here, you've got lines. Like, I almost feel bad, like, when I throw these away because I'm like, they put so much little detail. And that's kind of
Yes.
like the Cuban-esque vibe that My Father, I think, gives me because like Cuban bands used to be extremely complex. Now like we
Mhm.
have very simple bands that are bold and kind of stand out. But they used to be very like intricate and well thought out, just like My Father. And I think they wanted to probably take that with especially the
Mhm.
Fonseca line and take that old Cuban vibe and bring it in. So My Father, very well done.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I actually was planning on mentioning it because I noticed the tiny text that's in there. And it's like if you look at it, you really start to see the detail. It's a really nice band. It's almost like a little mini work of art. So yeah, very impressive there. Now, I also wanted to mention don't worry about my burn line too much, guys. Not only am I terrible at lighting cigars on camera, but also this is not fully humidified because I just got it recently, so it hasn't had enough time to really sit in my humidor.
Does
Um,
it feel a little dry
ah,
or over humidified?
Good question. I'm too new to know the difference. I
Is it
just
does it feel like if you were gonna squish it, does it feel like it'd be squishy or does it feel like the wrapper would crack?
oh, it's squishy. It's a little squishy.
Then it's over humidified, which makes sense because I shipped that to Chris coming from Atlanta. And like
Mhm.
here, I do let my cigars sit out inside typically right before I smoke them because it's so humid here. We're filming this for all of you in very early July. So like it's very humid. I mean, like I feel like I can swim almost in the air, and I'm relatively inside. Um, so that's like I usually do try and like let them sit out for a second. So like if you sat that in your humidor, it would take a really long time to get to the proper humidity. Uh, yeah, humidification percentage. So like that's another thing. Like if you feel like usually the roll test will do if you just bring it. I know we can't do it because we got headphones, but if you put it up to your ear and you gently roll it, if you feel like you hear any little like potential, even don't do it aggressively because if it's under humidified, that thing's gonna crack and then your entire cigar is ruined. It's like drinking a straw with a hole in the middle. So don't do that. But if you feel like you could potentially crack it, then you need to put it in your humidor. But there's definitely been times where like I mean I feel like the cigar I could almost bend it a little bit
Ooh.
because it's so over humidified that I'm like, okay. And then I check some other cigars in my humidor and I'm like, okay, okay, these are all over humidified. And then I just leave my humidor open.
Yeah,
Let it
good
air out.
point.
Get that humidity out. Like, because the worst thing is over humidifying your cigars because then the small, small, small chance of cigar beetles does get into play.
It becomes very real.
I've
Yeah.
never had them. I've only had one cigar gifted to me that had cigar beetles, and it was in a tube. Thank God.
No
I
kidding.
opened up that tube and I pulled the cigar out, and it had like 7 holes because that guy didn't know where to go. He was like, "This is my only thing. I thought I was gonna go into a giant 400 count humidor. What the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna feast." And then he's like, "Crap. All right, well this guy's screwed." And he just, I'm
Oh
like,
man.
"Yeah,
Good to know. We could have some good trivia about cigar beetles. We should
save
bookmark that
those."
for later.
Yep.
Um Pairing number two, I'm going to monologue for a second. I really want to know what you think about pairing number two. So, pairing number two is Woodford Reserve Bourbon. This is a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey we've had on the show before, and most of you have probably heard of it, especially if you're coming from the whiskey noobs side of this podcast. It's just a good middle of the road bourbon. This is usually, I think, for your very average whiskey drinker who's, that you like whiskey on special occasions, this is that bottle that a lot of people reach for when they want something a little bit nicer because it's just at the top end of that middle shelf, in my opinion. And it's got great, typical bourbon flavor to it. The pairing's doing something weird, and I really
What?
want to know what you think. Yeah, yeah. I actually, going into this pairing, I'm going to give you a minute to think about that.
Hold on, real quick. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna throw this out there. Woodford Reserve to the My Father Fonseca, like grape soda.
Yeah, dude, 100%. I was like, grapes, dark fruit, wild, wild.
What?
Yeah, dude, you like read my mind just now. That's exactly where I was going with that.
That's crazy because I don't usually agree with Chris on things like that. But
Right.
what? All right, go ahead and say whatever you're gonna say because now I gotta figure this thing out. Holy
Well,
shit!
I mean, two things that do not have fruit in them. Okay, so Woodford Reserve, depending on your palate condition, maybe has this kind of banana-y flavor to it. The My Father, as far as I have smoked it, no fruit to it. Most cigars, not a lot of fruit. The Woodford, when I drank it, I was like, oh no, is this going to be a bad pairing? Because it was like sweet and sugary, but it wasn't a lot of flavor. But then I went to the My Father, excuse me, full dark fruit, full plummy, winey. When you said grape, that was like exactly where I was going. Is the grapes, the plums, maybe cherry, but more towards the purple type of a fruit. 100%, dude. That was one that just confirmed it for me so strongly because that's exactly where I was headed.
How interesting. I put the Woodford down for a second because I'm like, when does it go away? It lingers.
Yes.
Like you could
Yes.
keep. I'm about to hit my fourth puff on the cigar without going back to the whiskey, and it doesn't stay like that right away. I mean, I still had a little bit of that Woodford probably coated on my tongue, and it was like, boom, like
Mm-hmm.
just a explosion in your mouth, like almost like a grape gusher. Like
Yeah.
what the heck just happened? And I don't say those things, guys. I don't do that. That's not like what I do. But wow, like
This it might be safe to call this a legit ultra pairing because I don't think either of those have that flavor.
no, no, the cigar has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Nothing, nothing. If you would have told me, and I love you and you're a great partner, Chris, and I respect your opinion on a lot of things. If you would have been like, dude, wait till we have this, like if you would have snuck it in like before, because I know you have a couple more of these. I'm like, you've been like, dude, wait till you have the Woodford. It's gonna pop some grape out of that cigar, and I'm gonna be like, dude, you're out of your mind. Do not mention that on the podcast, or people are gonna think we're idiots. They're
Dude,
never gonna think we're telling the truth.
Same way with Woodford. Woodford is a bourbony bourbon, man. It tastes like bourbon. It doesn't taste like grapes. Like that is the wildest
No finish
combo.
whatsoever. When I sipped the Woodford for a second, because like I've had Woodford a million times, but I'm one that used to have Woodford and then Buffalo Trace and then Woodford and then Buffalo Trace and maybe some Eagle or Rare and like all the same shit for years that I was just pairing with cigars because I didn't really care. And like I would experiment here and there, but I would never keep track. And then with this podcast, we're trying so many different things. So I haven't had Woodford a lot. And then I tasted, I'm like, got a little bit more spice to it than I remember. That was my first thought. And I was like, it's probably going to go, this is going to be a little spice battle again. And maybe like this Japanese whiskey and this Woodford are going to have a little similarities with this. Boom. Nope. Nothing. Nope.
Right.
Grape. How about that?
Straight out of left field, dude. Straight. I mean, that has to be the most pure ultra pairing we've had so far, especially because we both got it at the same, like right away.
Yeah.
Like that is through and through.
Do you get any of that grape out of the Woodford? I feel like I am.
I don't. Okay, hold on. Let me go back and try it. I really I didn't pay attention to it after I got that. I was too mind blown by it.
Puffing the cigar a couple times and then going to the Woodford, I was like, let's bring the grape. I mean, this is the truest ultra pairing. For those of you that don't know what an ultra pairing is when a cigar. Sorry, let me get this right. The My Father Fonseca Cedros and the Woodford Reserve is the most ultra pairing that we have seen to date. And an ultra pairing means that the flavor of the cigar and the flavor of the whiskey are creating something that did not exist in either of them at all. Hence, grape. Wow.
Yep, and I do see it on the whiskey now that I go back to it. Not immediately, but right as soon as the finish hits. Like as soon as you swallow it, it's like, oh, there's the grape again. That is wild.
It's like the Woodford Reserve was finished in like a port cask.
Yeah, truly. This, okay, all right. Subscribers who are listening to this right now, level with me here. If you have Woodford Reserve or you can get it and you haven't smoked this My Father yet, and you're like, I think pairings are a little bit of people blowing smoke. This is the purest example of a pairing creating something totally different. I mean, that is crazy.
No pun intended, blowing smoke.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
I know. I was like, I got him. No, but it's a great example because here's what I'll say too to everybody out there, slight plug, but also like truly authentically, this is why we do this. We are now releasing these Perfect Pairing Club cigars in 3-packs on shopdreamercigars.com on our website. You can see it below, like right now. It's right there. It's ticking. Look at it. But so you can grab, in case you weren't even in the Perfect Pairing Club and you're like, I'm never going to find that cigar, you can go grab a 3-pack. We do them incredibly well priced to give you the opportunity to try and get them if you weren't in the Perfect Pairing Club. But it's always cheaper if you're in the Perfect Pairing Club, by the way. And use code PPP10 for 10% off your Perfect Pairing Club. But everybody, you can find Woodford anywhere. Yeah. So like anywhere on the planet, or at least in the United States, you're gonna find Woodford Reserve. So now you have no excuse not to be able to at least test it. Please at least test it and let us know what you think in the Discord. We haven't mentioned the Discord in a couple weeks, but the Discord's still alive and well. People are talking about pairings, and we're gonna look for more opportunities to give you guys a voice and saying what's pairing well with this cigar, what's pairing well with that cigar. But yeah, I think enough ranting. I think we got to go to number 3 because we're already a little over time.
Dude, that was amazing. I that was worth pausing on for a minute. That was crazy.
It really was.
All right, so pairing number 3, we've had it on here before. We've got Hard Truth Distilling's Farmer's Reserve. This is, they have it on here, a blend of straight whiskeys. I want to say this is rye and bourbon mixed, which they might put on here. A perfect marriage of our chocolate malt rye and our sweet mashed bourbon, rested on toasted Amburana wood. Hold on a minute. I'm so excited right now.
Go
because
ahead
I
and
for
talk, cause I'm going in.
okay, go in because I almost said this earlier and I got sidetracked by the grape soda weird thing that happened. I wanted to say this cigar has that cinnamon toast note for me. And I was going to say, I wish I picked an Amberana whiskey. I totally forgot that this was finished in Amberana because I thought Amberana brings cinnamon toast crunch notes a lot of the time. And I was like, man, I wish I would have picked like an Amberana, like barrel Amberana or something. Definitely forgot that this is finished in Amberana wood. This is a great example where we're going to see if two things that bring similar, how well they play together. Because sometimes it's unintuitive. Sometimes they actually don't go together. But I'm curious to see what happens.
Okay. That it's really interesting. The hard truth sweet mash. Um, this is the not the rye. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Farmers Reserve hard truth Farmers Reserve. Now too many whiskeys today, guys, man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the hard truth sweet mash with the My Father Fonseca introduces a little bit of the fruitiness that we were talking about a little bit before with the Woodford Reserve, but in a better way is what I'm gonna say because you still get cigar flavor from the cigar. Like it's accentuating the cigar. It's not taking over the cigar. Whereas the Woodford Reserve was almost taking over that Fonseca flavor that we were loving in the beginning, that Corojo 99 that we were hailing in our initial review was nearly gone. Now I think it's coming back with a little. It's almost like if you wanted to like mix some lingo here, it's almost like this cigar was finished in an Amberana cask.
That's a nice way to put that. Absolutely. It definitely accentuates that. You get that cinnamon toast, but you still get some of that weird grape flavor. Maybe that's the bourbon. So maybe if you don't have either of these at home or any of these three, try a bourbon that's like a bourbony bourbon. And maybe that's what's giving it that flavor. But it definitely gives it that cinnamon toast in the cigar. The downside to this pairing that I will say is it accentuates the rye spice of the whiskey to the point that I'm still feeling it on my tongue. Like it's still,
Yeah,
and this is the highest proof one, but man, it's got some heat to it.
I would agree with that. It's definitely what is the proof on this?
Great
Trying
question.
to see.
50,
106.
yeah,
No?
106. Okay.
Yeah. 106. So but it does have that tingle. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is it goes all the way back to which is funny because it feels like it was on a different episode, that Japanese whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Um I'm gonna butcher this. Suntory. Okay, no, that's not too bad. Suntory Whiskey Toki.
Toki. Yep.
So Suntory Whiskey Toki, you say that in that line?
Correct.
I
That's how
never
you would
even
say.
noticed that.
Some people say Taki, but I'm pretty sure I looked it up and it's Toki. Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because it's like Pokeball.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
But it's almost like when you go back to that and you look at that spice, and I think it's because of that Corojo 99 that we were talking about. It has a little spiciness to it. It has like that ability. The Woodford just threw us off like crazy. So I think like taking a step back and like going through this pairing over and over again and going back to the hard truth sweet mash, you see, okay, this, in my opinion, out of all three, well, clearly not the Woodford, but out of all three, is actually the most complementary with this cigar.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you there. I think this is going to be really hard to rank because the Woodford did the craziest thing. This hard truth is making the My Father taste the best version of itself. It's accentuating the nice cinnamon toast, a little bit of that fruit. It's accentuating the complexity of it. Whereas the Woodford really accentuated this new ultra note that we didn't get before. This is going to be a hard one for the ratings. I'm going back and forth quite a bit. But I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, I just went back to the Suntory Whiskey Toki, and then my father with that. Again, I think I don't know. It's really tough. The My Father with that tastes very similar to the My Father with the Hard Truth Sweet Mash. So then do you
Mm-hmm.
go the opposite way, right? And say, all right, well, what's more complimentary? Like, and this is, I'm not trying to sway you. I'm talking through at least my thought process right now and trying to rank these in
Right.
terms of, okay, if the cigar tastes practically the same, has a little bit of a sweeter note, obviously, with that Amberana finish on the Hard Truth Sweet Mash. The cigar has that sweet note more than it does with the Japanese whiskey, but which whiskey gets elevated more? Which whiskey tastes better to me and my personal palate? Because
Mm-hmm.
that, after all, that's what this is. This is us saying this is what we like, and if you have more of a palate like Chris or more of a palate like I do, then you guys are going to be able to pick. Like, if you are out there and you're saying what Adam's talking about, no, 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 that I don't agree with anything Adam says, but I agree. That's why it's good that Chris and I have two different palates for this type of thing, because if we both loved all spicy things and we both love ginger and we both like, you guys wouldn't see another opportunity to where other people may be like, yeah, I hate ginger too. Oh, maybe this is, I get Adam's side of this sort of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
it adds that element to it. But the most difficult part for me, rankings is what it is, but the rating of the Woodford is so difficult
Mm-hmm.
because how do you feel about the cigar? Not like, it's not, I don't want people to think like, yes, it was shocking, clearly, to both of us.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like you're smoking an acid. It wasn't like cigar was gone.
Right.
Like sometimes when you smoke an acid, it's like, yeah, I'm chewing on candy, kind of like
Mm-hmm.
smoking a vape, like a sugary vape. Like, I mean, I've never vaped, but that's what I can assume at least. Um, like, it's not that, but it's enough to say like you really gotta like that. So like, don't take. I'll just. I don't want to speak for you, but I will. um, don't take either of our ratings with this Woodford Reserve unless you have some wisdom, Chris, behind yours as like a hard truth. LOL.
Ha!
Um,
We came
as
full
a hard
circle.
truth. There you go. Because like that one's so subjective, I think,
Mm-hmm.
that it's nearly impossible to sit here and say a rating.
I totally agree with you. Here's what I'm going to say about my rating for the Woodford Reserve. if you are, if your ratings would go up as the weirdness and uniqueness of the pairing goes up, you'll probably agree with me. If you don't like the flavor that we got from this, you will rate this a negative 10 because it's so there. And I've had that with whiskeys where I'm like, if you like this, you're going to love this. For me, I hate this. I've had a couple whiskeys that I've reviewed exactly that way. Um, so you really got to pay attention to why we're giving the ratings that we're giving. That being said, I do have mine. I'm ready to give my rankings if you're ready.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. So in the 3 spot, I've got Suntory Whiskey Toki. In the 2 spot, I've got Hard Truth Farmers Reserve. And in the 1 spot, I've got Woodford Reserve.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I was about to just like, once you said your third one, I was like, there's no way he's gonna rate Woodford first. So we got the same one because with the My Father Fonseca, I had the Suntory Whiskey Toki in third, and then I had the Woodford in second, and I had the Hard Truth Sweet Mash in first. Um,
Wow. I actually did not expect that at all. I thought you were going to have Suntory and Hard Truth switched, to be honest.
I didn't like the fact that the cigar didn't touch. I liked the pairing. I just didn't like that the cigar didn't touch the Japanese whiskey, and I thought it
Yeah.
was going to. I
Yeah.
almost want to like this cigar is so complex that I'm almost like, give me a cigar I know like really, really well. This is one that I've had plenty of times, and I wanted to make sure we presented obviously to the Perfect Pairing Club members in their monthly pack because it provides obviously another brand of My Father to try and see if you like it. But it's a cigar that's complex, so they can get to know it. But I don't know it that well. I want to take a Maduro that I know really
Mm.
well. Like if I'm going back, I want to like maybe try the like Aladino Maduro Robusto with this, and say
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, are you bringing that sweetness of a Maduro over? And I think it would work well. I
Mm-hmm.
think it would work well, and that's what I think I was a little bit hesitant on that. And um, yeah, again, it's almost like 1, 2, and then this other one's on its own planet for
Yeah.
me. Like I I I don't know. It's really difficult. I mean, my ratings might even be different than my rankings just because of that. And I know
Right.
that doesn't make any sense, but my rankings are kind of my recommendations, and then my ratings are like this is the only one where I'll ever maybe do that. Only time in the history of this podcast where I may have my rankings don't reflect my ratings because I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It was so hard to judge this Woodford.
You really have to put it in its own category because
You
it's
have to.
like so and that's reflected in my ratings. So let me just run through here. I put the Woodford at a 9.0. And my reasoning behind that is it's the absolute minimum to be phenomenal. So there's still 9.1 through 10 to get something better. But it's so bizarre and so different that for a cigar noob like me, I truly never thought I was going to get a normal tasting bourbon and a pretty complex cigar and get something so weird out of that. I've heard of ultra pairings. This was my first really powerful experience with an ultra pairing by far.
No, that is absolutely fair. I completely understand that. I'm gonna go on the Woodford. I'm gonna go an 8 flat.
Okay.
Um, because I would recommend it. I would recommend it. I think everybody should try this pairing. That's why earlier, like I said, like go grab a 3 pack, and if we run out, guys, we'll figure out a way to get you some more at some cost effective rate. I promise. But like I think you should try it. I think it is worth trying if you're a or if you're trying to understand pairings, you have to try it. But then going to that Japanese whiskey, I have that one at an 8.1. They
Okay.
would that one I would rate an 8. Again, I'm not doing ties. So I'm not doing it, and again it is flipped. So you can I don't know, say what you want, but I have it at an 8.1 because again, I would recommend it and I enjoyed it, but it really wasn't like fully for me in that realm, so I had it at 8.1.
I actually have the Whiskey Toki at a 7.0. Now, my reasoning for that, and I think this is definitely where our palates come into play, is that it was good, but I loved, as you mentioned, the cigar kind of got the same thing from the Whiskey Toki and from the Hard Truth. And I love the full throttle flavor of the Hard Truth. Like that for me was like, oh yeah, this is nice. This is so much flavor. So I actually did, I'll put my third one out there. I did 7, 8, 9. I did Suntory Whiskey Toki 7, Hard Truth Sweet Mash, Farmer's Reserve at 8, and then Woodford Reserve at 9.
I left the Hard Truth Sweet Mash and the Fonseca right at 8.9 because I was so tempted to do 9. So like we're aligned. The point one is no difference.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason being is just like I think this Fonseca that has a lot of play. Clearly, we recognized it today. There, like, you go down. I mean, just the I don't know 20 something bottles I have behind me. I mean, you talk about the possibilities are endless with this cigar. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's why I left it at an 8.9. Like, I grab it absolutely off the shelf, no problem. That's why I mean maybe it should be a 9. You could debate it, but it's for me it sits there. I actually think the Sweet Mash Rye would have been a 9.
Ooh, that's a hot take. That would have been fun to try. If you guys have that at home from our past pairings, give that a shot. That's an interesting thought, actually.
Yeah, I think it would have brought that cigar to a little extra level, and I'm on a little bit of a Maduro kick if it's not too obvious, and me bringing like I wish I had a Maduro right now with this.
Mm-hmm.
um, so like maybe that's what it is, just personal preference right now, but yeah, that's what I got for you. Now, this cigar today is a Nicaraguan Puro, the trivia question of the week. That's because the binder, the wrapper, and the filler are all Nicaraguan. So it's a Puro. It's purely from one country. So all Cuban cigars, by the way, all Puros. They don't
Oh.
Cubans do not mix. they, that ain't happening. You're not gonna
Right.
find a Nicaraguan wrapper with a Cuban binder. I can tell you that for sure. Um, so like that's what puro means. So if somebody says this is a Dominican puro or a Honduran puro, like I believe this puro being a Fonseca, I don't remember exactly what brand had the rights to Fonseca before, but I think it might have been a Dominican puro, which would be super interesting to see like the two takes on like the same like brand name.
Hmm.
I don't know how much control there is in terms of like you got to try and like keep the flavor profiles similar, but if you own something, you probably can do whatever you want with it. Um, but yeah, I mean that's what puro means. So
I have to say, prior to this episode, in my mind, if it had the same country wrapper binder filler like this, I would have thought it would have had a more one-dimensional flavor. And this has such a three-dimensional flavor. Like it's hitting so many different parts of the flavor wheel. I don't know if that's a myth in the community or if it was just in my brain, but I totally thought that. I thought, oh, Nicaraguan would probably have its own flavor like bourbon does, and rye has its own flavor, so maybe Dominican has its own flavor. This has such a complex flavor. I wouldn't have expected that for a puro.
well, you talk about the climates that they're in that Nicaragua presents, like Esteli, Condega. Like you've got these valleys, you've got volcanic soil, you've got so many different just environments and soils that they present. Um, some like and even you go shade grown, sun grown. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
sun is such a big factor in Nicaragua. I mean, yeah, no, like, and you talk about the biggest thing that nobody really talks about in the cigar world is the or nobody really talks about outside of the cigar world, I should say, but to the public is the difference in process. Like how
Oh.
tobacco is processed
Mm-hmm.
changes so much flavor. It's not even funny.
Great point. I didn't even consider that. Okay. And
Yeah,
I didn't think about how they have super different climates within the same country, like you mentioned. They can have different soils and things to
just
give it
the
that
the
variety.
mountainous volcanic
Mm-hmm.
like environment. Like Nicaragua's not a huge country, so it's not like
Right.
trying to grow like a winery here in Georgia and a winery, in Napa Valley. Like, yeah, sure, they're different. Like, clearly,
Right.
like, I mean, miles and miles and thousands of miles away. So like Nicaragua is not like that, but yeah, I mean, just for whatever reason, that's what it does. You can
Yeah.
tell when you've got a Condega cigar and or a little bit more Condega tobacco than you do a Esteli tobacco and all that sort of stuff. If you get real nerdy on it, if you get
Yeah.
real nerdy on
I like the nerdy stuff. The folks listening probably know that by now. So.
it. That's
Mm-hmm.
true. Well, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna go ahead and cheers you out with this Woodford Reserve because cheers to Woodford. You guys really threw us for a loop.
Absolutely. Cheers, man.
Cheers.